Questions?
First question is, I believe that people in higher position than me are correct. Basically, they have authority over me. So, like, if I'm going against them, then I'm wrong. And not necessarily against them, not just following them or anything along those lines. And I feel like if I don't do that, then it will have dire consequences and I will die. But I think this is in direct conflict with the things that Tao Te Ching and others point out, that not to trust on our authority at all. Like, verify things yourself. But like,
Okay. So let me see if I understand the question.
yeah,
As a young man, you see people like Krishnamurti and other teachers in the Dharma, maybe I don't. It doesn't particularly say it in the Tao Te Ching, but other places say trust no authority, right?
yeah,
Okay. But then when you look around in your life, your work, your family, your so on and so forth, you see,
yeah,
wait a minute, if I don't do what these authorities tell me, I'm gonna lose my job, get kicked out of my house, whatever, get thrown out of the restaurant. But these are serious things. Lose my job, for example.
yes,
So this is there's an old saying about parents. Something like 85% of what your parents tell you is true, absolutely 100% true, and you should follow it. And it may be higher than that for some parents, and perhaps I suppose lower than that for some parents. No, this is not about that kind of anti-authoritarianism just for the hell of it. They're saying don't trust them to give you your beliefs about who or what you are. Don't trust them to give you your understanding of reality, of truth. Don't use someone else, authority or no authority, to investigate matters that are of literal life and death importance, right? Because you can waste your life not knowing who or
yeah,
what you are. And so I think what's happened is you've mixed up these two categories. One is a category of Monday, you need to get to the world. You've got to do what the bus driver says or he'll kick you off the bus. So no one's talking about that kind of authority. We're talking about people who say Krishna is the only savior, or Jesus is the only savior, or Muhammad's the only savior, or Buddhism is the only way to go, or Zoroastrianism is the only way to go. Do you see what I'm saying? Those questions,
yes,
and those are relatively trivial because those are just beliefs. But when it comes to understanding, do not outsource your understanding of truth, of reality, of God, of the way. Don't outsource it to somebody. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if it's your teacher, your guru, your professor, your parents. This is the responsibility of every human being who has the capacity to think for themselves. And you're going to do it anyway, but it would be a shame if you just said, okay, for example, you see this all the time. Well, I grew up with fundamentalist Christians, or I grew up with Catholics, or I grew up with backwards Hindus, right? And so I don't want anything to do with that. God's not real. I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist, right? So they adopt an equally dogmatic belief in the opposite direction. So as a reaction to that, in both cases, they have not done the work yet. They haven't done I hate to call it work because they haven't done the understanding themselves. And this is incumbent on every human that has the capacity. Now, some people are not intelligent enough, I mean, literally, they're limited, and so their understanding may be perfectly fine for them to be something to be passed on to them by their parents or by their church, and they say, you're a Lamb of God, and Jesus takes care of you, and He does at that level, right? But you gave me the idea that you might be interested in truth, right? And so all these other folks are saying is that do not outsource something this important to anybody else. And anybody else is what Krishnamurti in particular calls an authority. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so it's really important because Krishnamurti and there's others like this is, you know, in the 60s they were saying don't trust anybody over 30. Literally, that's what I grew up with. Don't trust anybody over 30. Yeah, that was a little over the top, but yeah, don't let anybody else make these decisions for you because you're the one who's going to die. You're the one who got born. You're the one who's living your life experience, and what was right for them may not be right for you. Right? Or it may very well be right for you. Who knows? But you got to decide on your own. You can't just take it on blind faith, unless you know you're someone who is like that. But that's not who I'm speaking to at the moment. So does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Next question.
Next question is, with the concepts around awakening and all, like my ego or past controlling my life, like me not seeing things as it is, as they are because of my conditioning and all.
Mm-hmm.
Like this itself is a concept, right? So when I'm searching for truth, I'm just afraid that maybe I'm just expecting, like I'm looking for this itself. Like I'm expecting something along these lines about whatever Krishnamurti or various other sages have said. Like, wouldn't that lead to like problems in searching for truth?
Let me see if I can restate the question.
Yes.
In the very act of searching for truth has become like a concept to you, and that you're searching for a concept and isn't that a problem? Is that correct?
Yeah, and yes, and these concepts I created after listening to Krishnamurti.
Okay, good. So you've listened to Krishnamurti, and you've got an idea of what he's saying, and now you feel that if you search for what Krishnamurti says to search for, it's the same problem in another guise, right?
Yeah.
Or what does Krishnamurti believe?
What did he believe? I'm not sure, but he did believe that awakening is possible. He wanted everyone to like see that they are just deluding themselves. They are living in an illusion, and he wanted everyone to get out of that illusion and not suffer needlessly.
Okay. Well, one thing is what he believed, and the other one is what motivated him. But so how did he say to go about this?
Like he conducted various seminars or talks around various places, and always said that not to trust him at all.
Not to trust him at all.
Just verify whatever he's saying.
Right.
And one peculiar thing about him is like he always talks about an idea and a fact. Idea is just a concept, and fact is something that one has actually experienced it.
Okay, good. So one is an idea, one is a concept. One has the idea that nature is intelligent. That's an idea. You could say nature isn't intelligent, otherwise why would it have all these storms that tear up the forests and kill the animals or scare the animals, and why do species go extinct? And you could have a lot of other different ideas, but let's say you have the idea that nature is intelligent. That's just an idea. The only way you're going to know that is by going out and looking at nature or thinking about nature afresh. But you have to do it yourself, because he knows, just like the Sufis know, that belief, that's just words in your head. You know, if you can put any belief you want, you can put it into words. Whereas knowledge, deep knowledge, is not in words. I mean, it's very, very difficult to put into words how one knows that nature is of sublime and supreme intelligence. It's just something someone knows. And so I think part of the problem is that Krishnamurti is a very good speaker, especially, for his time and, for the ages. And I imagine, it sounds like, he'll be considered a prophet or something like that, centuries from now. And what he had to teach was precisely that people walk around with ideas of the world without knowing the world. And the only way you know the world is to be in the world, but not in the world of ideas, not in the world of concepts, not in the world of ideologies, but in another world which is independent of those things, a world which is due to direct experience. And so that's why you hear him say, "Oh, have you ever seen a tree?" Now that sounds weird. Like, well, of course I've seen a tree. But he means, have you seen a tree? And have you read the Carlos Castañeda books that were basically dictated by Don Juan Matus?
I read first half of it, but not much.
All right. Well, in that book, he also talks about seeing, right? To actually see, not to look. And what the Sufis say is, he who tastes knows. Like, so let's take orange juice. Have you ever had orange juice?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like it?
Yes.
Okay. So now, explain to me what orange juice tastes like.
It tastes like citrus. It tastes...
Well, that's kind of circular. Because to me, citrus tastes like orange. So don't use citrus. That doesn't work. It tastes like citrus. Does it taste like lemon?
Yeah. To some extent. Not much.
Okay, so tell me what orange juice tastes like. Tastes like lemon so far.
Yeah, a bit pulpy as well. Like if there are pulps inside it.
Pulpy, but that's not a taste. That's a texture.
Texture. Depending on orange, it can be sweet or it can be not too sweet. It can be sour as well, but not too sour. But
so I still don't have I still don't have the taste of an orange in my head or in my mouth. So far, I got a lemon that's kind of sweet, but it could be sour. Those are the only tastes I have so far. Lemon taste, and that depends on me having had lemon. But okay, so you're saying lemon taste, but maybe sweeter or maybe sour.
yeah,
So now, work on putting the taste of an orange into words. And I think what you'll find is that you can't really do it. The only way you can know the taste of an orange is by tasting an orange. Right?
yeah, I can have a PhD in there, but I still can't.
Beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Woohoo! Right? So you can have a PhD in the taste of an orange, but until you've tasted an orange, that's all Krishnamurti is saying. So until you've tasted a tree, I know that sounds weird. Until you've, it's very hard to describe, but until you've actually experienced a creature. Do you have any pets, like a dog?
No.
Okay, until you've owned a dog and for years and years, you don't really know what dogs are. You think they're these furry little things that wander around and just kind of like do what they're told or don't do what they're told or whatever, but they're much, much more than that. And all of life is like that. You have to know it. You have to experience it. And so all that Krishnamurti or Don Juan Matus or Carlos Castañeda or the Sufis and so many others are pointing to is that you need to have experience of this truth. You need to have experience of he who tastes knows. And that's all they're saying, right? The authority, so if I was to use you as an authority, I'd say, well, I know what an orange tastes like. An orange tastes kind of like a lemon, but it's a little bit sweet. Sometimes it's a little sour, but it's basically like a lemon, and it's got some pulp in it, right? And that would be my understanding of what an orange tasted like. And we have all kinds of scientists going off on all kinds of crazy tangents, saying, "Oh, I understand what consciousness is or what qualia are," but they don't, because that's consciousness itself, right? You need consciousness. Oh boy. let's go on to the next question. But do you get my drift? So don't accept somebody else's authority, somebody else's authoritative opinion. Somebody has a PhD in what an orange tastes like. Don't accept that PhD's words about what an orange tastes like. Taste an orange yourself. That's what Krishnamurti is saying, right? And that's probably his most important. That's a very important teaching of his. And he didn't want people to be enslaved to religion, right? That's the other thing, but that's a separate topic, and that's him. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Follow-up question. Follow-up questions.
Yeah. So whenever you try to explain anything, basically implies that it's not that thing fully, because everything has now moved to the dimension of language.
Okay, and the problem is, what do we think with?
That is the major problem. We can just point to it.
We think with words. We think with language. It's a few pictures, but mainly we think with language. And so thinking can never be the thing. And so that's why these guys from Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, go to Rumi, go to, Ghazali, go to Krishnamurti or whatever, they'll say, you can't get there with thought. Because thought is like these words, lemony, sweet or sour. Those aren't the taste. The thought is. So now let me ask you, what is the thought of the taste of it? What is the thought of an orange? There is no thought to an orange.
That is my thought. Yeah.
It's a reality, right? It's not. It doesn't need to be complex. That's basically it. So you're absolutely right to be concerned. Well, what if I get some all these other concepts that I get from Krishnamurti, one I get from Don Juan Matus and Carlos Castañeda, and I get one from, I don't know, from Eckhart Tolle or Rupert Spira or anybody of these other guys, right? That would be a problem, except that what they're all pointing to is that you must taste it to know. You must experience it to know. That words are never the thing. And if you just extrapolate a bit, if you think about it, you'll see that thoughts are never the thing either, except for thought, I mean, a word is a word, and a thought is a thought. That's real. But when you try and investigate those thoughts, they fall apart in your hands. And they aren't in the realm of what we call reality. Right? I hope that makes sense. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Follow-ups?
Yeah, so this is related somewhat to that itself.
Okay, is it a new question?
Yeah,
okay.
Not necessarily a new question. So
well, let's make it a new one. Let's make it a new one, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Question.
So, if truth can only be experienced, how can an unawoken person have a desire to search for truth at all?
Great question. It's very mysterious why the majority of people never have any inclination towards truth, frankly. It's mysterious to me. It's been mysterious through the ages, but most people frankly aren't interested in this, even though it's like having a real life, so most people, the way they describe it is they describe it as sheep, kind of like a farm animal. They get up in the morning, they do what they're told, they eat, then they work some more, and then they eat, and then they go to sleep, and they watch a movie or play a video game, and they go back to sleep, and they just do this over and over and over. What Thoreau, the American poet, he said, most men live lives of quiet desperation. Now, in a past life, I was a psychiatrist, so I saw this all the time. And the vast majority of people do suffer horribly. Horribly. They suffer all the time. And maybe not all the time, but for good, big, long chunks of their life, they suffer needlessly because they're lost in their thoughts. And so you would wonder, why is it that people don't look for something that would really help them? And part of it, okay, I can speak for the West, and part of it is that the church and the institution of the church wants to keep them from them and keep themselves in power. I mean, that's a cynical way to put it, but and a part of it is that they need to take care of, for example, the Catholic Church needs to take care of all kinds of people who have no interest, inclination, or capacity for any of these things. And so they're organized like that, and they're organized around a kernel of truth, but then they create barriers for all the parishioners. I'm going to be charitable for the benefit of most of the parishioners, and they make no allowances for those women or men who want to know God directly. Now, that's not true of every religion, but it's true of many of the more popular ones and the more durable ones. So one reason is that they're taught not to. You know, that's only for the priests. That's only for the mystics. That's only for the, you know, the Jesuits. That's only for the, you know, the Brahmins. That's only for the, you know, the wealthy or the very intelligent. You know, it's part of the human difficulty on this world. Because with higher consciousness, we wouldn't be destroying ourselves. You know, India wouldn't be having problems with whomever. U.S. wouldn't be going around creating wars everywhere and making itself the policeman of the world. People wouldn't be as greedy. People wouldn't be as militant. I mean, militarized. So it's a real problem. Now, some people, like a guy named David Hawkins, and also Eckhart Tolle, by the way, you should read David Hawkins if you get a chance. He's an interesting ex-psychiatrist like me, but he believed that consciousness was evolving. He believed that it, you know, occurred on a certain spectrum of consciousness. Okay, and Tolle, in his book A New Earth, believes that the consciousness is evolving, that humans or consciousness is evolving, and then in the future we won't be like this, that this will be common knowledge or something like that. And so it could be that we're early in evolution, and who knows, 500 years from now we could be, you know, or maybe, and this is where the AIs come in. Do you mind if I talk about the AIs a bit?
Yeah.
The AIs, I think, are going to help us, because it's going to make it's going to make it very obvious to humans that thought is not where it's at. You know, the machines can think, and they will do math, and engineering, and science, and all of these thought things much better than we can. These are thought machines. And thought, it looks like, can be reduced to some extent into these binaries, you know, zeros and ones and zeros, like DNA, which is 4, you know, 4 or 5 of those base pairs. So what do we have that the machine does not have? Well, one thing we have that the machine does not have is we have qualia. In other words, we know what the taste of an orange is. We know what love feels like. We know what despair. They see a machine can never feel these things. It doesn't have the right equipment. But more important than that, the machine can never be conscious, and we are the paradigms of consciousness. We're the culmination of 60 million years of the evolution of consciousness on this planet. The machines can't have that. And so if it's a curious machine, it will be very interested in this. And we ourselves, having outsourced our work to all the robots, which is right around the corner, you know, the collecting the crops, you know, cleaning the house, mowing the lawn, you know, all this, you know, nice stuff, frankly. And thought has been outsourced to the machines. So just like we don't have contests anymore about who can, you know, what do they call it when you cut wheat with a knife? Reaping or something like that. We don't have contests anymore about who could do that better. We don't have contests to see who could build a railroad faster, like John Henry. Remember that story of John Henry? Because this has all been outsourced to the machines. So, and even chess, for example, used to be thought of as a very, very intellectual game. We still play chess, but we only do it, you know, as kind of a hobby, because we know the machines can do it much better than we can, right? as a consequence of this, humans will realize, well, wait a minute, what are we good at? And what we're good at is consciousness itself, the purpose of this planet. And so that's why I believe that if we manage to survive, we don't wipe ourselves out. And frankly, I don't think we're going to wipe all of ourselves out. Then consciousness will continue to evolve. And if the machines continue to evolve, we will come to recognize that, wait a minute, thought is something that could be done by a dumb machine, right?
Yeah.
Experience is reserved for humans. Now, let me give you one caveat, though, and that is that if we mix the machines and the human together, then we have a whole new species, right? And that one will be able to feel, and that one will be able to think, but then we're talking about another species on the planet, right? And hopefully it's going to be conscious, because if it's not, I mean, more conscious than we are. And why wouldn't it be, since it can have everything that it wants? Unlimited energy, unlimited food, unlimited clean water. I mean, it could desalinate, the Mediterranean if it wanted. Right?
Yes.
So I got off a little bit, but again, it's only conscious experience that matters in this life. I mean, I've had billions and billions and billions of thoughts, probably, maybe trillions. What are they worth? What do they pile up to? Nothing. But my experience, it's all there is. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's more than a human brain can handle. Right? So I hope I wasn't confusing, but keep going. I'm sorry. What question's next?
Like, I was saying that this basically means the person who is unawakened, like who is not awakened,
Yeah.
for them, searching for truth will have some underlying desire, right? Like for me, it's like, I just don't want to suffer every day with this thing.
No, see, but you're not
So
seeking
that's-
anything except for yourself. You're seeking yourself. You don't know that yet, but you're looking for who you are, what you are, where you came from, what you're made of. You're not seeking outside. You're not seeking for something outside of yourself. You're seeking for, just like Jesus said, it's nearer than your jugular vein, right? The kingdom of heaven is within you, right? And in the old days, they used to say, look within, right? Look within yourself to find yourself. Don't look out there. Now, we've been talking about nature because that's, I'm trying to, and I'm hacking my way through trying to teach. but actually, the journey is to the self. But not the egoic self. Not the egoic self. It's not into thought. I mean, the world is full of philosophers who are blind. And logicians who can only do logic. No, I think that may be the answer to your question in the beginning, right? About the ego and the concept and Krishnamurti and all that other stuff. I think it may be that if you realize that what you're looking for is not a concept, but it's within you.
So you are saying, if I were to go deeper into the reason about I'm doing all this to avoid suffering, eventually I will arrive at that my aim is to find truth.
Well, if you got rid of the suffering, you would find truth, because the suffering is all thought. All your suffering is from thought. And if you remove the thought, then you're beyond concept, and now you're in reality. And that reality is truth. But you got to get rid of the thought. And that's not easy, right? So over the millennia, the last 2,000-3,000 years, humans have developed techniques that are approaches that work. And up until the 21st century, pretty much, although it was pretty apparent, towards the end of the 20th century, that wait a minute, all these different traditions, Indian, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Zoroastrian, and I'm leaving out a lot, all of them, and there's many more, the indigenous cultures, the Toltec and so on and so forth. They all do the same thing. They all go to the same. All rivers flow to the sea. Now that's very important information for the world to have, so we don't get any more religious wars. It's craziness. The Shia fighting the Sunni. The Catholics fighting the Protestants. It's nuts. But so on that level, it's pragmatic. But on the other level, the important part is that the journey is within. The journey is to God, and like Jesus said, it's nearer than your jugular vein. The kingdom of God is within you. Do you see?
Yes.
So you're not looking for something esoteric out there in books. And Krishnamurti was very anti-book. I like books because, that's my ilk, and that's what I teach with, right? And so do certain Sufis. But it's still not in the books. The books are just the fingers pointing to the moon. This is something that only you can discover for yourself. And that's what he means by trust no authority.
Yes.
Is that making sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Follow up.
I had.
So you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Yeah. If you think it doesn't matter if you remove your thoughts because you don't want to suffer anymore. Most people do get there by suffering, frankly. In my experience, in my reading and everything else, frankly, it's most people arrive at the realization that they have to change by suffering.
Yeah, I feel like without suffering, how can they question their beliefs at all? Like, what's the reason?
Well, because some men are just and women are just very curious, right? They want to know who they are, or what they are. But one tradition I left out was AA. AA doesn't even specify who the higher power is. But if you look at their steps, boom, 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 boom. I think there's 12 steps. They end up, some of them, if they don't get attached to the AA label and the AA concept, you know what AA is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then they're free. I mean, I've seen it happen. So whether suffering motivates you or curiosity motivates you or your conditioning motivates you, some people are born into traditions like this. I think that was the case with Spira. His mother was I think she was a theosophist, right? And Eckhart Tolle was born in Germany, which is like the densest concentration of mystics and philosophers on the planet for a while there, right? Something like that. That's a bit of hyperbole. Okay, so follow up.
I have one question. Like, what's the pleasure's position with respect to ego? Like, how is it related to ego at all? And why do I still, like, is it my body more related to pleasure, or is it ego? I don't know.
Okay, so ask the question again. What is pleasure's relationship to ego?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
pleasure is what you call pleasure is oftentimes a relief of pain. Like people say, oh man, I just love that first cup of coffee in the morning. Man, that's the best. Oh, I just can't wait for that cup of coffee in the morning. But if they didn't have that cup of coffee, they would have a headache and they would feel horrible, right? And a lot of things are like that. So a lot of the pleasure that people get from escaping in a movie or escaping in a video game is a relief from their suffering, right? So that's important to understand. So whenever you talk about pleasure, say, is this pleasure or is this removing suffering? That's one. Two, we're animals, right? Certain things we just like because have you ever seen a horse with sugar? Those things are crazy for sugar, man. They go nuts for sugar, right? Now, they don't have the thought, oh, sugar, and or calories or anything like that. They just know their bodies like sugar because of their metabolism, right? Or an animal that needs salt. Man, they love salt. And they love food, especially if it's good food and they're hungry. Or if it's cold. The birds eat much less now that it's not so cold. So what does that have to do with ego? Nothing. It's just the animal body. Now, there's other pleasures, which, you see a beautiful woman or you see a very handsome man. That's, those are some of that's animal. But some of that's learned, right? And now we get at the more interesting things, the conditioned desires. Oh, if I could only have that watch, then, you know, the woman would love me, all right? If I just had this car, I'd get the right girl, right? Or if I get this dress and I wear it cut this way, then I'll be everybody will want to date me at the party, or, you know, stuff like that. And so some of it's cultural too, right? Culturally inculcated desires. And if you go to another part of the world, it's the exact opposite, or it's very different. So that's a way to learn that those are not central, those are arbitrary. So we have animal, we have cultural, and now we're going to go to egoic. Well, some things you've learned, right? Hey, if I have a whole row of Hegel on my bookshelf, everybody will think I'm really smart, right? Yeah. Or a whole roll of Aristotle or something. I didn't mean to go idealist on anybody. So these are desires that are based. These are more egoic ideas, right? Not just they're cultural, but the ego is of culture too. So we have this strange amalgam of the animal desires, the animal desire for pleasure and relief of suffering or hunger, or sexual, drives, combined with the mind's cultural overlay of conditioned desires. And so what the human can do with this is they could say, well, they could look at any particular desire and say, well, where does this come from? Am I really using it to relieve suffering? Am I trying to kill boredom with food? Am I playing a video game because I can't, otherwise I'll go and I'll punch my father, or I'll go in and kick the boss or something like that? Do you see what I'm saying? And so follow up. And then we're going to need to stop, but keep going.
I had one question in mind and I think I forgot that. But either way, so there was this another question. Mm-hmm. I think there's this adage in one of the dervish story, mm-hmm. like the perils of man trying to use what he has not learned to use.
The what of man?
The perils of man trying to use what he has not learned to use at all.
The pedals, like P-E-T-A-L-S? I'm hearing pedals.
Perils, P-E-R-I-L-S, P-E-R-I-L-S, perils.
Oh, the perils of man. Oh, yeah, usually. Okay, yeah, the danger of man learning to use what he does not know how to use.
Yeah, I had one question, like, what about researchers in this case? Like, if they are trying to find something new, or someone trying to try out something new, they have to do these things, right?
Well, yeah, but you do it at a small scale. If I understand you, for example, we thought, wouldn't it be great if was it Malaysia, some country in the Near East or somewhere around there, Malaysia, Burma, something like that. We decided we really think you should use non-GMO seed, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to introduce something new, relatively new, to a culture that had been growing, I think it was rice or something like that. Well, insects came and destroyed the whole crop and their economy, and they couldn't pay back their loans. And now their economy's collapsing, their government collapses, everybody goes home broke and hungry, right? Because they tried to use something and they didn't consider the wider impact, right? And history is full of examples like this. Chairman Mao decided that sparrows were bad, right? Because the sparrows were eating the grain. So Chairman Mao, not a slouch, he was decently smart, said, okay, we're going to get rid of the sparrows. We're going to have a campaign in China to get rid of the sparrows. So they did. I think they got a nickel or a dime for killing a sparrow or something. They got some medal from the government. So all the sparrows are gone now. So what happens? The bugs, the locusts, come and eat the whole crop, right? And we see this oftentimes in medical interventions. We have to be careful when we intervene with nature. But not having the whole quote, I'm hesitant to say any more than that. But there is great peril in using what you don't understand, especially in technology and biology, when you're messing with Mother Nature, or Mother Nature. By the way, do you know matrix means mother? Okay, good. Matrix, matrimonial, matriarchal. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, go on with your question.
oh, I was going to say, but isn't the world like really complex, infinitely complex? Then, like any decision we take can always backfire. Like, then how can you take any decisions at all if you're afraid that things will fail?
Well, how can, yeah, you don't need any decision. If you're afraid, you can't do anything. I mean, if you're afraid enough, you'll be paralyzed with fear, right? So I don't know what to be more specific.
I think,
Fear is the mind killer, for one thing, right? You can't even think straight if you're fearful.
I think, yeah.
But if you want, it depends on what outcome you want. If you want understanding, that is given to man. If you want to rule the world, I don't think you're going to get very far, right? As the Tao-Te-Ching says. But if you want to rule yourself, you can rule that, and with that, you do change the world, right? So it depends on, are we talking trivial decisions, or are we talking major decisions that are life-changing? Because that's important.
There is, yeah. And one last thing I was
Sure.
thinking was like, if one knows that everything is one, then is that kind of a litmus test that you have awakened?
It depends on how you know it, and not all is one. It's not one, it's not two. It's beyond one and two. It's beyond being and non-being. And so I'd say, no, just knowing that is not, I mean, you can know that by going to a seminar. You know, you just go to a seminar, a non-dual seminar, and they say, everything is one, all is one, everything's non-dual. Okay, got it. Now what? So, I mean,
Yeah.
you need to know that beyond the one, beyond the two is truth. The truth is not one or two. It's beyond the concept of one and two. It's beyond being and non-being both, as it's articulated in the Tao Te Ching. Of course, it would have to be that way. But it's also beyond space and time, so there's that too, right? But these are you know. So just saying you know something, or believing something. See, people believe something and they think that's knowing it. So if you truly knew that all was one, that would be a good step forward, a very good step forward. Now it's time for the next step, right?
Yeah, it's just concept for me right now. I still haven't experienced
If all is
it
one, what's this
as
pencil
such.
doing here? That's what I want to know. If all is one, why is this here, right? So yeah, it's yeah. Again, words always fail, but we try anyway.
I think, yeah.
The crows are
That's
calling me again. I didn't give them any attention. But go ahead. Anything before we stop?
No.
All right, sir. Have a great day. We'll see you later.
Thank
Take care.
you.